Hey everyone, so for the better part of a full century, Albus Dumbledore was considered one of, if not, the most powerful wizard on the planet. Even in his older years, when many began to doubt his ability, he still proved his worth, dueling a fully restored Lord Voldemort to a stalemate. There wasn't much Dumbledore hadn't seen or done when it came to magic. Even dark magic was an area that he had quite a thorough depth of knowledge on. However, despite his promise, his potential, and his natural flair and gift for magic, Albus Dumbledore never truly acted on it. He applied himself to teaching, to educating the next generation of wizard and witch. And yes, he did change after losing his sister, but his desire to be great was always there. So what truly made him choose the path of becoming a teacher? Well, that's exactly what we're going to take a look at today. How and why Dumbledore felt that education was the career for him, after having such huge goals previously. So everyone, if that is the type of video you're interested in today, then stick around, grab a butterbeer, and enjoy the video. Okay everyone, let's get started. So, as many of us know, before Tom Riddle's many academic accolades, Albus Dumbledore was hands down considered the greatest student Hogwarts had ever seen. He excelled in everything, he astonished teachers, he mastered things so quickly and with such ease. He was tipped to change the wizarding world for the better. And it's important to first look at where Dumbledore begins, the challenges he faces, and his struggle for acknowledgement in order to properly understand why he makes the decision to dedicate his life to teaching. And before I go any further, I'm going to say it now. Ariana's death was not the sole reason for Dumbledore deciding to be a teacher. There was so much more to it, and I'm going to explain that today. There were a lot more factors that contributed to such a sudden change within him, and I'd also like to add, it wasn't exactly a bad change either. So let's look at the path Dumbledore was originally on, and it still actually shocks me even to this day when it comes to the person Albus Dumbledore used to be. He planned to conquer the wizarding world alongside his best friend Gellert Grindelwald. The two men were actively seeking out the Deathly Hallows in order to become the masters of death. Albus was on board with the plan to actually enslave the Muggle race, although this was theorised by Grindelwald but would have proved impossible, and finally install wizarding dominance. He coined the phrase "for the greater good" as an excuse for the awful things that both he and Gellert would have to do in order to achieve the results they wanted. So just let that sink in. Albus Dumbledore would have killed people if necessary. The thing is, Albus was in love with Gellert, very much in love. Everything he was doing was clouded by his feelings for his friend, while Gellert himself saw the clarity of what needed to be done. This was one of the first things that played a factor in Dumbledore realising who he truly was after he cut ties with Gellert, and that's a point that I'm going to come back to shortly. Albus also resented his family for constantly impeding his own ambitions. Before meeting Gellert, Albus actually intended to take a grand tour of the world with school friend Alphonse Doge, but unfortunately, while staying at the Leaky Cauldron the night before he was scheduled to depart, news reached him and Alphonse that Kendra, Albus's mother, had died. Now, this had a very long-lasting effect on him. Not only did he lose his mother, but he lost his freedom, which, as awful as it sounds, bothered him more in the long run than his mother's actual passing. His younger sister Ariana became the priority, and he also had to care for his younger brother Aberforth. So for the best part of a year, all Albus's dreams went completely out of the window. Gellert Grindelwald's arrival ignited Albus's passion to the point that he actually ignored his sibling responsibilities, much to the anger and frustration of Aberforth. Albus set about achieving the goals he set with Gellert at the expense of his family. He planned on leaving them, not giving them much thought or consideration. Definitely a world away from the Albus Dumbledore that we know ourselves from the books. So the famous three-way duel occurs. Well, I suppose it's famous amongst fans, but not actually in-house, which results in Ariana's death. Now, Percival and Kendra Dumbledore both died separately, and Albus was aware of that. Yes, he was affected by their deaths. That's true. Many of us would be when it comes to losing a parent. But in saying that, he still carried on with his goals, never really grieving, and sadly, never wanting to grieve. As awful as it sounds, it really didn't take Ariana's death to switch the light on within him. It was actually witnessing how little Gellert Grindelwald actually valued him or his feelings. Don't forget, it was Gellert who started the duel, wanting to inflict as much pain on Aberforth as possible. Albus had to intervene, and even then, Gellert still would not yield, and it was only with the unintentional death of Ariana that it actually caused him to lower his wand and worse, flee the scene. The realization that the one person who he believed truly cared for him actually didn't caused Albus to finally open his eyes and see the real picture, which in my opinion was three things. Three things he learned about himself that very day. The first was his ego. It was out of control. Albus genuinely believed his own hype. He believed he was so talented and skilled that he deserved nothing but greatness. He couldn't allow anything to get in the way of the destiny he felt he deserved. He was already highly resentful of the fact that he didn't get to travel the world, and knew that in order to be great, he had to put himself first. Reflecting upon this version of himself really humbled Albus. How could he behave in such a way? Now, the second thing he seen, which was a rather grounding realization also, was the fact that he was very much in love with Grindelwald. He was blinded for so long. He knew that Gellert did not have purely good intentions at heart, that the greater good was more of a manipulation of Albus's feelings than a coined phrase to live by. Albus was willing to kill, willing to launch a coup of the wizarding world, and willing to enslave the Muggle race. Can you actually believe that the Dumbledore we know today was once willing to do those things? It just seems unthinkable if you ask me. Then, the final thing Dumbledore realised, which the first two reasons stemmed from, was his lust for power. Albus Dumbledore craved power more than anything, even more so than Grindelwald. He wanted the Elder Wand. He wanted to perfect all aspects of magic, even the dark arts. Albus Dumbledore wanted to be the most powerful wizard of all time, and wanted the fame and notoriety that came with it. The best decision he ever made was coming to the conclusion that he could not be trusted with power, therefore should not put himself in a position where it is achievable, where he can be of a massive influence. It's no secret that he turned down the role of Minister for Magic on more than one occasion because he didn't trust himself becoming corrupt with power. And that is what makes Dumbledore so great today. That is what makes his character incredible. He knows he should have limitations, and instead of seeking out glory for his skill, he should instead instruct upcoming generations on how to make the right kind of decisions that he never made. That is why he became a teacher. He knew Hogwarts was far away from the congested wizarding world, where corruption and power seekers lie, where vast opportunity awaits. No, instead, he would dedicate his life to teaching students, while perfecting his own craft in a closed environment. Dumbledore's reputation also continued to grow. He was very well known and well respected. Now, as I said earlier, it wasn't just Ariana's death that caused him to change. Dumbledore needed to see who he was becoming and what path he was about to take. It was through teaching that he also had time to reflect on his previous actions. He deeply mourned his sister and honestly never really stopped. It was something that he accepted as a penance. In conclusion, Dumbledore felt that his best place was as a teacher. The fact he didn't trust himself and lusted after power was a clear indication of his eagerness to seclude himself while still feeling useful. Even then, after many years of control, he still slipped up at the first real sign of temptation with the Gaunt family ring. However, it was from a good place. a place of longing, and in the end, it proved that his lifelong concern was always a concern, that he couldn't trust himself, even in the latter stages of his life. And with that being said, everyone, that is my explanation on why Albus Dumbledore became a teacher at Hogwarts. I think it is a quite fitting explanation, and is honestly one of the most enjoyable videos I've made as of late. But my question for you today is, do you think there's any other reason as to why Albus went into teaching? Let me know in the comment section below. Thank you very much again for watching, have a great day, and always remember, be happy. Thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate your support. Everyone, notifications of uploads are more important than ever. So please, if you haven't already, turn those notifications on to make sure you're notified the moment my video goes live. Making videos is what I love to do. It's my dream and my passion. However, it does cost time and money to produce this content. So if you have $1 to spare to support me on Patreon in exchange for some exclusive unseen content, then you can click the Patreon link below or at the end of this video. Please only support me if you can afford it. And make sure to follow me on Instagram at InstaDNJ and on Twitter at Folklore. Check out my other videos appearing on screen, and please make sure, most importantly, to hit that subscribe button. Thanks again everyone, and please have a great day.